Yesterday, I watched the worst movie I've ever seen in my entire life. It's called 3,000 Years of Longing. It's about a woman who meets a genie, and then they babble on. It's just essentially my YouTube channel, except higher production values. They just babble on about nothing, and then nothing happens, and then nothing happens, and then it ends. I'm pretty sure whoever wrote this wants you to think that the character in the movie wrote the story because it's so badly written and everything's just out of place and in the wrong order. And I think they did that because the writer of the movie is terrible, and they thought, I'm a terrible writer, so I'll blame my terrible writing on this character that I'm making. It's not my fault the writing is terrible; it's their fault that the writing is terrible. If you're going to do that, you have to be a good writer first, or otherwise everybody will just assume you're a terrible writer, which the writer of this movie is. Maybe it's not the writer's fault. Maybe the writer made a great movie and then they sold it off to a studio and the studio destroyed it. Apparently, that's what happens a lot. But I'm going to blame the writer and the director and everybody who worked on the movie. It's all their faults. Their names are on it. They got paid for it. They can deal with it. It's hard to talk about a movie in which nothing happens. It starts nowhere, it goes nowhere, and it ends nowhere. Everything happens out of order, which is why I think that it's supposed to be like a fake story. It's a fictional story about a fictional story about where the main character doesn't know how to write. And I think that because there's a scene where she has her genie in a bottle and she says, "Oh no, you can't put my genie in a bottle." She doesn't say it's a genie. So you can't put my bottle through the x-ray machine, but there's no explanation of why she's so worried about it going through the x-ray machine except later when it turns out the genie gets harmed by electromagnetic stuff, the electromagnetic spectrum. Apparently, it turns out that he's made up out of the electromagnetic spectrum, which is everywhere. By the way, visible light is part of that. So apparently, he's being harmed all the time, and we just didn't know it. I guess it's only some of it. Like if you were hit by gamma rays, you would die pretty fast. But that's part of the electromagnetic spectrum because the electromagnetic, it's all just the same thing at different frequency. That's what this means. But anyway, back to the terrible movie. Turns out that he gets hurt by electromagnetic stuff, but we don't know that until later. And she didn't know that until later because she's like, "Oh, why are you turning into a dust man?" And says, "Oh yeah, because there's electromagnetic stuff." Oh, she didn't know that when they were putting his bottle through the X-ray machine. So why was she so worried about it? I'll tell you why. Because the writer wants us to think that the main character is writing the story, and she's a terrible writer. I'm not letting them get away with that. The writer of this movie is a terrible writer, and they're blaming their terrible writing on the characters that they wrote. That's terrible. As terrible as the writing in this terrible movie. Did I lose anybody? Good. Don't watch 3,000 Years of Longing. It's a terrible, awful, 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 terrible movie. It's garbage. It made me go out and pet Sadie, and I was so upset. Sadie actually hugged me with her teeth. It's because she knew how upset I was after watching this awful movie. There's a lot of scenes that just don't go anywhere. There's like these racist old women, and then they just stop existing for a while, and then the main character brings some food over to them, and then that's the last we see of them. I assume the racist old ladies were wished away, or there something happened to them because we never see them again. And like it's just a hard cut during the scene, so I assume something bad happened to the old ladies. I don't have much to say about this awful movie except don't watch it. If somebody comes up to you on the street and says, "I want to pay you $1,000 to watch 3,000 Years of Longing," you say yes. But if somebody says, "Hey, would you like to watch this terrible movie for free?" Don't say no. You'll have more fun staring at a wall. You'll enjoy yourself more licking the hardwood floor. No, licking bathroom floors that cats walk on. 3,000 Years of Longing sucks. And I'm angry I watched it.